Hello everybody, it's PJ from Wisconsin Airgunners, and thank you for tuning in on this video review of the AEA HP Max in 457. I've had this air rifle for about 4 months now, and I've had a pretty good opportunity to put it through its paces. I've taken it out hog hunting in Central Florida. Unfortunately, I have to report that I didn't see any hogs on that hunt, so there's none of that footage included. However, I have had the chance to work it through its paces on the range, and I'm able to show you quite a bit about what you should expect if you pick this rifle up and what you're going to need to do to make it field ready, I guess I'd say. It's not a lot, but I think you should be aware of it. I'm not 100% sure I should start a review by telling you you're going to have to work on this gun a little bit. I actually enjoyed the process of working through things on this gun to figure out exactly how I wanted it set up and what exactly I would be able to do with it once I got that sorted. It's not a ton of work, and there is a payout at the end. Check this out at 35 yards. There are 2 3-shot groups here. That's a 3-shot group, and that's a 3-shot group. So I have no questions about whether or not the gun's going to be accurate enough. But for this to be useful, I need to take you back to the beginning. What you're going through here is a string of 10 shots. I'm filming this string and all the scope cam you're going to see in this video through the Sightmark Wraith HD 2:16 by 28. It's a good day-night electronic scope, and it's a great fit on top of the HP Max. Now Sightmark has come out with a Wraith Mini, and I think they've bumped up the resolution on it, added a few features. The one feature that this scope doesn't have is audio. So any shooting you're going to see is going to be absent that audio. Now what I'm doing here is trying to see what a shot string starting with a 300 bar fill looks like. This was some preliminary test work I did, and it led me to some conclusions I've made about this rifle and how you'll want to set it up if you decide to jump in to grab one of these. I did test the rifle with 3 different versions of Nielsen Specialty Ammo slugs, and I'm going to play through my immediate after shooting results for you now. So we're talking about the 240 grain Nielsen Specialty Ammo .454 slug. This is your first shot. This is with a 250 bar fill. That's shots 2 through 10. Now we're at 27 yards right now, but that's a pretty good group. That's shot 11. So if you fill to just shy of 250 bar, you're going to have at least a magazine, realistically a magazine and a half, before you drop off. We're starting at a little over 700 feet per second. Then that drops off through the high 600s to below 600 in the first magazine, and then it drops off but doesn't really lose elevation. And this is at about 515 feet per second where we see a real perceptible drop. Okay, these are the Nielsen 220s. So I know one of these two is the first round, and that's evidence of keyholing right there. Certainly that one is. A couple of them kind of in the middle were looking pretty good. But I would not probably as it's set up, shoot the 220s. I also did a couple of magazines with Nielsen's 190 grain 454 offering, and this was a much better group, and this projectile, if it's the right weight for you, in my mind merits a little bit further shooting. Before I show you what this group looks like up close, though, I want to talk briefly about what this rifle is. It's a short-barreled 457 bolt-action air gun. It's capable of producing up to about 200 foot-pounds very comfortably. It shoots in the 150 foot-pound range, and that's perfectly capable of ethically taking predators, coyotes, foxes, as well as hogs. And that's how I'm looking at this gun. I'm not looking at this as a deer hunter. I think there are other options for that, but if you're going to go out and do pest control, I think this might have a spot in your arsenal. So let's look at how the 190 grain Nielsen's performed in the AEA HP 457. So this is the Nielsen 196 grain. It's a .454 slug, and this is a significantly improved group over the 220 grain slug. And it's not that the 220 is bad, that's just what this gun likes. So the first three are up in the circle, and then the one dropped low and right, and then the rest of them should be 5 through 12 when in that tight group right there. That's all very useful for hunting, and I'll have to check quick, but I think all of those are over 150 foot-pounds. So if we're talking about a hog and coyote gun, I think you got it. At this point in my testing, I do have a couple of takeaways and a few things I do want to share with you. If you're going to go down the path of setting up a big bore like this, you are going to have to do some experimentation with ammunition to make sure you find one that's right for the gun that you have. I offer my results as a starting point for you, but you're definitely going to have to do some additional testing. Now, after I shot the groups that I showed you, I did repeat that, and what I was trying to do as I repeated it was try to figure out what is the starting fill pressure that's going to give me a string of consistent shots, at least from a point of impact perspective. It's an unregulated gun, which means as you shoot, the pressure inside the tank is dropping, and therefore each subsequent shot is going to have a little bit less velocity. And that effect is, I would say, exaggerated when we get into the world of big bores. And what I wanted to set this gun up for was 6 reasonably consistent shots that all had similar point of impact. Now the reason I picked 6 is because that's what's in a magazine. So if I can figure out with this gun what to fill to so I know there are 6 consistent shots with decent power, I figure this gun is good to go. Now so far so good, but I'm shooting inside and I'm only shooting at about 27 yards, and I figure I need to know what this gun is going to do at 50 before I can really take it out into the field. So let's go there. Well, I've got a target out at 50 yards. We're going to take a couple of shots. Got one left in the magazine, and then we'll reload. I got a spare mag. Trying to get a group at 50 yards. Haven't really had a lot of days where it's been possible to get out, and today is not ideal. We've got 15 to 20 mile an hour winds coming across us here. So I'm not sure how much that'll push this slug, but I guess we're going to find out. Trying to see if we can get a group. knocked the box about a bit, so we might have to go out and reset. Not sure. We'll see. Well, the target seems to be holding true. All right, that's 3. We're gonna go take a look. Okay, the wind was too much for the microphone, so I couldn't get any. You couldn't hear what I was saying out there. I'll show you the picture. The first shot was quite close to the bullseye, so dead on. The second and third shot, I would say, are about in line with the first subtension on the reticle I have set up. So that's actually quite predictable, and I could definitely work with that. We're gonna take at least 2 and maybe 3 more shots just to see what happens. All right, let's go take a look again. So that's what I'm gonna call a very favorable result. What I'm gonna have to fine tune for my gun, and you're gonna have to fine tune for your gun, is exactly what that pressure is, where you get that high shot versus the low shot. I've been filling off 2 different compressors because I've got something I'm trying out for somebody, and it's really hard to tell on the gun gauge, but I think on my hill, which has a very accurate manometer or reading or whatever you want to call it, I think I was filled to about 246 here, and I think I need to bring that down to maybe 240 or possibly 235. So I saw that one high shot, and if I filled it to 300, I know I would get 2 of those high shots, which at 50 was almost dead on, like elevation wise, dead on. If I fill it down a little bit, I go into that area where I've got basically, let's call it a magazine, that are all going to be right on. And on the Wraith, where I would shoot at 50 yards is the first subtension down, and 25 yards I would shoot right on crosshairs, and then you know, I'd kind of work the middle of that for in between shots. Boy, and that's shooting a really nice speed for those what are they, 240 grain Nielsen slugs, and it's punching at about, well, over 200 foot-pounds, which I think for hogs, coyotes, things of that nature, really good. And you got a follow-up shot should you need it. So I should give you some thoughts on this, I guess. It's sort of a review, isn't it? I find myself, I don't do a lot of big bore stuff, though I think I see a little bit more of it in my future. I really like this gun. The bolt action is nice, the trigger's okay. I think there's some washers you can put in to boost the hammer spring a little bit. So I think if you wanted to play around and see if you can get those first high power shots a little bit higher, I think that's a possibility for you. For me, what I would use this gun for, that 200 foot-pounds, having like 4 shots is a great, that's a great setup for me. So I think I'll leave it there. I just need to figure out what is that, you know, don't fill it past this, fill it right to here. I need to figure out what that is, because it matters on where my holds are, and I want to be predictable, knowing where to hold the optic in order to make the shot. You can go to Black Arts Design and get the magnetic clip for the folding stock. I definitely recommend picking up one of those. Otherwise, when you have the stock open, it's a little floppy. And you have the option of connecting a moderator because it's got the M18 threaded barrel. The Emperor brings it down to just where there's the faintest, if you're indoors, ringing in the ears. Outside, you don't get that. So it's right on that edge, and the reflectivity of the surfaces around you influence what you're going to hear. The Great Kami is a really good, it brings it down to, don't try to put backyard friendly and 45 caliber in the same sentence. That doesn't work. But the Great Kami brings it down to where it's very comfortable to be around while you're shooting. I think that's probably what I would choose to run. It's doing great with the Sightmark Wraith. I like that optic for here, especially since my plan is to use it for coyotes at night. So that's probably now found a permanent home. It had been kind of flipping back and forth between guns, but I think it's going to stay on there permanently. I can't think of anything else I need to say. It's a solidly built gun. There were no problems at all setting it up, shooting it, using it, putting air in it. It does have a fill probe. A lot of AEA guns have fill probes. It uses the same as the 357 Max, and I think it's the same one as the Challenger. So at least if you have a couple of their guns, they have a couple of different varieties of fill probes, but this one connects to some of the other bigger ones. I suppose if we ever get a nice day where you'd want to be outside without 15-20 mile an hour winds, and I was impressed how well that slug bucked the wind going out to 50 yards. I would not hold for wind. I would hold for elevation. Anyway, if we really do get a nice day, I might stretch this out to 100 just to see what it can do. So here I am hitting a 25-pound steel plate at 100 yards. Doing it once really isn't all that impressive. Let's see if we can do it twice in a row. And as it turns out, you can pretty much do it all day. The 4 shots within that group were really quite tight, which, you know, that's pretty decent for something of this magnitude. And I would want you to think about what you're shooting at. You know, you're not trying to take a headshot on a squirrel. You know, you're shooting heart and lung on like a coyote or something along those lines, or, you know, headshot on a pig. So you've got a little bit more leeway on those shots. For those of you who've stuck around this far, I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from the video. If you have questions, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. I do appreciate the positive feedback, and we do try to make sure that we get you an answer to anything you might want to know about. Until the next video, everybody, shoot safe, shoot straight, and we'll see you around.